Good Monday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us. The Browns get a win at home against the Steelers. Wasn't pretty. Doesn't matter. They're 7-3. Let's listen to Kevin Stefanski in the locker room after the game.
How about that teamwork? Yeah! How about that team? How about that team that fought their fucking ass off out there? How about that team that had each other's back for 60 minutes? And guess what? We needed all those 60 minutes. Okay? I appreciate the fight in this locker room. I see it every day. I get to see it in the building, all right? I see it every day. I see it on Wednesday. But the fight out there, guys, will not be denied. How about fucking 27 jumping over people? Let's go. Hey, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. That's what this game's about. Okay, but what I see, we talk about connected teams, that's what I saw today. Was it perfect? No. It doesn't have to be perfect. But man, when you fight like crazy fellas, we got a chance. Next week, we got something's in the way next week. I don't know who it is, but something's in the way. But I appreciate how you guys fight, all right? Check the schedule where you're supposed to be. Take care of each other tonight. I appreciate you fellas. Team on three. 1, 2, 3.
And earlier today, Kevin Stefanski gave an update on some injury situations. Browns will be missing a couple of defensive guys.
Anthony Walker Jr. has a hamstring injury. That'll be week to week, so we'll work through that. Rodney McLeod Jr. Has a biceps injury that's going to require surgery, so that will end his season, unfortunately. And I think you guys know how I feel about Rodney. Unbelievable leader for this football team, has played really well for us. He's really a guy that I've gotten to know over this year, and Coach Schwartz had history with Rod, and a bunch of guys, knew Rod prior to this season. But just watching that guy work, watching him in the meeting room, on the practice field, during the games, just amazing teammate. So that's, I feel for him. He'll get fixed up, and then he'll be back out here helping his teammates. But really feel for Rod in this situation. On the game, obviously hard-fought win, and it was hard, and it was hard-fought. I mean, it was physical. It's AFC North football, so it's kind of how we expected it would go. Wasn't always pretty. Things that we can certainly clean up, and we will, but really, really proud of the fight in this group.
With that, let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle, Telegram, as well as BrownsZone.com. And Scott, those are the kind of games and the recipe to win with what you have right now.
Yeah, if you have the number one defense and you have good special teams and a really good kicker and a pretty good running game, or probably better than a pretty good running game, you're going to play games like that. And the key is going to be the defense shows up every week. You try to limit turnovers on offense, and you try to sprinkle in some big plays. Now, you can't have your offense be as stagnant as it was for pretty much all the second half, right, until those final, whatever it was, 78 seconds. So you need better there. But, yeah, they're going to play – I think they're going to play a bunch of close games. Maybe they won't always be 13-10. Maybe they're 23-20 or 20-17. But I think that's what people have to get used to, because that was what happens when you have a rookie quarterback.
Well, the other thing the Browns did is they, in fact, signed Joe Flacco to the practice squad. So Flacco, former Super Bowl MVP when he was with the Ravens. Last time we saw him passed for just over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2022 with the Jets. He had a 58% completion percentage. Stefanski on how he fits into the Browns quarterback situation.
Yeah, Dorian will start. And Joe's role is to support this team. Coming in here, we were able to add a guy with a ton of experience. He'll be great for that room. He'll be great for this team. Yeah, and the workout looks good. Kept himself in good shape. Fit. As you know, Scott, that there's different guys have different skill sets and those type of thing. But just a guy that has seen a lot, has played in different systems. Feel like he can bring value to that room.
And Scott, take us through just your thoughts on Flacco. You got to remember that there's not a whole lot of guys that are out there, right? And you can't make a trade.
Right. I mean, to me, you have certain choices, right? You could bring in another young guy just because you need a third body, period. But I don't see how that would help. You bring in a Kellen Mond from somebody's practice squad. Yeah, he's been here, but if he needs to play, do you have any confidence in him playing? And I would think no. So you got to go. I think the better alternative is a guy like Flacco, a guy that's played a lot in this league, that if you need him to come off the bench and maybe win a game in the fourth quarter, he can, and he's done that. If you need him to start, right, if Thompson Robinson gets hurt or if he falters for a stretch, I think Flacco seems like a better option than P.J. Walker. And, you know, he's won a bunch of games in this league. He's got 99 regular season starts. He won a Super Bowl, was Super Bowl MVP. He can still throw the ball. Browns fans and the Browns saw that in week 2 last year. He threw 2 touchdowns in the final, minute and a half to stun the Browns in week 2. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. You know, if you're not getting Tom Brady out of retirement or Matt Ryan out of retirement, I think Joe Flacco makes sense.
All right, so Dorian Thompson-Robinson was able to string together some completions on a final drive. Former NFL offensive lineman Brian Baldinger takes a look at that game-winning drive by DTR.
Let's pick the action up with 1:18 to go in the game. DTR drops back and hits Elijah Moore right there at the 50. Watch this throw. I mean, this is a confident throw. This isn't a throw of a rookie that has started one game in this league. Against the Steelers coming at him right here. Step into the throw. Get something behind it. 15 yards. All right, nice. Now you get right here. You get 2nd and 5 with 53 seconds to go. There it is. There's your man right there. Amari Cooper for 8 yards and a first down. All right, then how about this throw here on the outside? It's a great route by David Njoku. This little whip route. Boom. He puts it right on him. And he gets 11 yards and a first down. Now, here we go. Let's get a little bit closer. 2nd and 3, no timeouts left. Watch my man Wyatt Teller right here. Get up off the ground. Look at this. They got the 2 yards. Watch Teller go to work. Like he's not done. And then how about a little somersault? Oh, that's beautiful stuff. Now go spike it and kick the game-winning field goal. Brownies, brownies, brownies.
And Scott, again, you're judged by what you do with the game on the line. So there wasn't a lot that was hugely positive during the first part of the second half. But in the fourth quarter, when he needed to make some throws, DTR made some throws. That's important.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you look at the whole game different. You look at even his future differently, at least the short-term future, because he was able to do that. And it's a win, and he didn't make the killer mistake. He had 1 interception, which may have cost him a field goal, might have cost him a chance at least to try a long field goal. But other than that, he protected the ball. They were still in the game. They never trailed. And then he gets a chance at the end, and he goes down and makes those 4 throws that Baldy just showed. So I think it does say something about his composure, his clutchness, right, that he was able to make those throws when it counted. So that's a big plus for him moving forward, because you have a different view of it. There's no doubt. Like whatever happens, they go 3 and out, there's a fumble, whatever, and the Steelers win that game 13-10. But then the story of the game is how DTR looked bad in the second half, couldn't finish it off. But now you have a different view of it.
All right. So Myles Garrett was asked yesterday after the game what it meant beating the Steelers and Ravens in back-to-back weeks.
I think teams not only improve during the year, but they also show you who they are. And I think we're getting to a point where we're showing the world who we are as a team, as a defense, and really imposing our will on the people that we're playing, and we want to continue to express ourselves and how much we can really dominate.
And Scott, we talked about the Steelers. That was a blueprint for how the Steelers won, and the Browns didn't let them win that game.
Right. Yeah, that's how the Steelers have been winning games all year. They get outgained, and they still make the one play when they need to. And the Browns defense didn't let them, right? They gave up the long run to Jalen Warren. Other than that, they really held it down. I mean, 248 or 49 yards total. I mean, that's nothing. Pickett threw for like 109 yards. I mean, that's nothing. Warren was the only guy that did anything against the Browns yesterday. And that's just continuing that upward trend of the defense. But I liked what Myles said there about showing the world who they are. And I do feel like that. I feel like as you get deeper into the season, the team's true identity does reveal itself. And we're starting to see that. Now you get guys in and out of the lineup can skew that a little bit, but the defense has shown up week in and week out and just played well again. And we've talked about it all year, Dave. If they play like this, and they really have for the most part of this season, that gives you a chance to win regardless of who's playing quarterback.
Yeah, without question. All right, before we go to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Yeah, this is Bernard from New Philadelphia. Once again, the Browns proved why we got the best defense in the NFL. Thank God for our defense. DTR played a great game, only turned the ball over once, but our defense is clutch. Stefanski, please, for the love of God, stop play calling. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. And again, I don't know how you can separate DTR's play from Kevin Stefanski's play calling. I thought the game plan was really good. I thought his play calling was really good. He didn't ask the rookie quarterback who has limitations relative to an NFL starter to do things he couldn't.
No, I mean, I don't know what Kevin Stefanski's supposed to do. I really don't. He protected this guy, right? He didn't leave him in a bunch of tough spots. He got the ball out of his hands in a hurry. I mean, the way you lose that game is the way the Browns lost week 2 in Pittsburgh. It's your quarterback throws a pick six, you get a strip sack late, right? Like, those are the things that skew the game because I think the Browns are more talented than Pittsburgh. So what happened there is Kevin Stefanski said, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to leave DTR back there in the pocket for TJ Watt to get him and change the game. So it's a bunch of 3-step drops, get the ball out of your hands in a hurry. They ran him a couple of times. I just don't know what the alternative is because they tried to run it. I mean, the Browns tried to run it. Pittsburgh went with bigger bodies. They dared DTR to throw, but you can't. He's not throwing deep, so limited stuff you can do as a play caller. You're trying to avoid turnovers. You're trying to play the field position game and trust your defense. And I thought Stefanski did all of that throughout the day. And then when they had no choice but to throw it late, he dialed up the plays that worked. I mean, that's a great throw by DTR on that hook to Elijah Moore. But Kevin Stefanski called that. I'm sure he said, okay, they're going to be in this defense. Here's your shot. Take it. And he did. So I think Stefanski's done an outstanding job all season long. I think that includes him as a play caller, winning games with 3 different quarterbacks, really none of whom played particularly well. Watson had a little stretch where he played well, but overall the Browns quarterback play has not been good. And Stefanski's 7-3, and he's won with all 3 quarterbacks. I don't understand how you can knock him.
Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle Telegram, and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Talk a little bit more about DTR, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance. Is that Marion Bright? The first ever $1 million holiday game! Hello? You can get them now?
I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as BrownZone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. Some fans are still bashing Stefanski, and it's getting a little bit aggravating, to be honest. But, fans are entitled to their own opinion. Yes, does he make some questionable decisions? Sure, but every coach does. How much more do you want from Stefanski with what he has to work with? In my opinion, he is cooking right now, coaching really well. Just give the man his just due. Thanks. Whoop, whoop.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. So, Scott, we kind of said that before the break, and it's kind of interesting. The fan base is kind of divided, which tells me people had their mind made up before they've seen what's going on recently.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, if you go big picture, playoffs in 2020, winning record through almost 4 years, on a playoff trajectory this year. No Browns coach has done that since Marty Schottenheimer. Belichick didn't go to the playoffs twice in his career. And I'm not comparing Stefanski to Belichick. I'm just saying Browns have had a lot of bad coaches, a lot of losing, and Stefanski has changed that. Not by himself, but he's a big part in it. I think his personality is the right one for this job. The fans may not love the lack of outward emotion, although he dropped about 4 or 5 F-bombs that had to be bleeped out in that locker room speech, so some people should appreciate that. But I just think he's done a great job. I mean, he's got this team fighting through adversity, winning games without, Watson and Chubb and Conklin and Jed Wills, and we could go down the list. And from a play calling perspective, again, I think he's giving his guys a chance. The run game is working. They're figuring out a way to, move the ball passing most games. I think he's done a good job. I think unless the season, unless there's a disaster over the final 7 games, I think he gets an extension after the season. I think he's going to be here for a while, and I think he continues to improve, and the haters are going to have to get used to him.
He should get an extension just based on the way he's coached, without question. The other thing is we mentioned the inconsistency. He still hasn't had a consistent quarterback. The quarterback keeps shuffling, and everybody that doesn't think that's a big deal, go look up Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady. It's 15 games under 500. So he is without question one of the best coaches in NFL history. Without Tom Brady, he's under 500 by a lot. So that's how important it is.
No, I mean, look at this year where the quarterbacks rank, right? I don't know. I know a couple of weeks ago they were last in quarterback rating, pass rating, all that, and yet you're winning games. So that says something. And I know they have a great defense, but that says something about the coach. Not to mention he hired Jim Schwartz and Bubba Ventrone because he identified weaknesses on his staff, didn't mind bringing in big personalities, which I think says a lot about Stefanski and the security, in himself. Not in his job security, but just in himself, right? I can bring these guys in, these big voices, these proven guys. Jim Schwartz has been a head coach, and he doesn't care because it's going to help the team. So I just think he does a lot right that doesn't get recognized.
All right, I know this is something that you answered in your mailbag. Do you think the Browns can make a playoff run with Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Yeah, to me, there's 2 different questions. One is, can they get to the playoffs? And I think that's a yes, right? There's 7 wins. I think 10 gets them in. The AFC, the records aren't what I thought they would be. The Bengals are going to have a hard time getting there. Buffalo has struggled. I think 10 gets you in. And, the Browns still play the Bears, the Jets, a Bengals team without Joe Burrow, right? Like, there's winnable games on this schedule. So I have them getting to 10 wins. I think they can get to 10 wins even with DTR. Now, can they make a run in the playoffs when you face the Mahomes and the Allens and maybe the Herberts if they're there, Tua, right? Like all these teams with big-time quarterbacks and big-time offenses, then you're asking a lot. But I don't want to make that judgment now. DTR's played 2 games, right? So I think you need to see it play out more. But, yes, I think the Browns can get there, and then they're going to have to figure out a way to win once they get there. And maybe that's just DTR develops and, you catch lightning in a bottle. But I think that's a conversation for later.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, Nick Foles was a backup that, ended up getting hot in the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl, and, Jim Schwartz was part of that team. This is interesting as well, and didn't realize this until Tony Grossi tweeted it out. Most overlooked aspect of the Browns' 13-10 win against the Steelers, one penalty. They committed 1 penalty. Steelers committed 1 defensive penalty on each of the Browns' 3 scoring drives. But, again, your margin for error, Scott, is pretty it shrinks with DTR as a quarterback. Penalties are part of that. They didn't put him in 1st and 15, 1st and 20.
Yeah, that's huge. And the 1 penalty was, I think it was James Hudson, hands to the face, I want to say. And it took away he completed a pass for 1st down, wound up being 1st and 20. They had to punt at the end of that possession. But yeah, when you're playing those kind of games, right? The tight games, 13-10, each possession matters. Field position matters. And you're right, with DTR, it's a lot to say, because at 1st and 20, you're probably going to have to throw the ball twice, right? You're not going to hand it off and get 20 yards rushing. So it's, okay, the defense knows that. They're going to bring pressure. How do you combat that? And it's tough if you don't have a quarterback who's been through, who you trust to drop back, stand in the pocket, make a big throw, not put the ball in harm's way. All those things, if you have a veteran quarterback, you can do, right? You see Mahomes, they don't think twice if it's 1st and 20. But I think you do if you're Deshaun Watson, or I mean, if you're Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And the second part of that is you have such a good defense that you just don't want to make too many mistakes, right? You don't want to put the defense in bad situations. And if you avoid that, the odds of the other team scoring decrease dramatically. We've seen that. If you don't give the opponent really good field position, it's tough for them to score, right? Maybe they score 1 touchdown a game, and you can combat that. But if you give them the ball, they're 20 or you're 20, all of a sudden the points can pile up. And we saw that in that Ravens game, and certainly we saw it in that Steelers game.
All right, so before we go to break, take a look at this graph. It's kind of interesting. It's blitz rate and percentage of pressure created by the blitz. So x-axis is the pressure percentage, so that's cross up and down, is the blitz rate. And you see the Browns kind of middle of the road as far as their blitz rate. And they've created a decent amount of pressure. The only ones who have created more pressure are the Jets and the 49ers. And it's kind of interesting, Scott, because Jim Schwartz isn't necessarily blitzing all the time to create pressure. He's trying to get matchups for his guys on the line to free them up.
Yeah, and Jim, throughout his history, he hasn't been a huge blitz guy. But it depends who he's got, and it depends what his roster looks like. With the Browns, he can afford to blitz because he really trusts those corners. So if you go man-to-man in the back end and you trust your corners, you got a couple safeties and linebackers just standing there. So you can bring them, and that creates pressure. It creates the one-on-ones, like you said. It creates the matchups you're looking for. You can also give the illusion of pressure, the simulated pressure everybody's talking about now. Give that illusion and then drop a couple guys, but the offense still reacts like a blitz is coming. And he's mixing and matching. They played more zone than they have yesterday, and that confused Kenny Pickett. He was expecting more man-to-man because that's how the Browns have played throughout the year. So you can just do so many things when you have the talent that he has up front and in the back end.
Scott Patrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out on the side of the break. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little bit about the Browns defense. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrek from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave Frank from Cleveland. Brown should have never been in that position if Stefanski would have challenged that safety. That was clearly a safety. You know it, and I know it. God bless your brother. Great show as always. Love you, man. Be safe, you and the family. And have a good Thanksgiving if you don't hear from me.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, Kevin Stefanski kind of explained that. He was trying to get clarification from one of the officials and then didn't get to it. But I will say this. That's what turned into the touchdown drive. If you get those 2 points, you're not getting the ball on a short field and taking advantage of it and sticking it into the end zone. So I get where you're going, but it turned out just fine.
Yeah, it did. The touchdown makes it you can live with that. You never know how a safety works, right? They kick from the 20, you get a good return. Who knows how close you are to midfield. So obviously you'd want the points, right? You'd never turn down those points. But it was interesting. I was watching Stefanski, right? Because I'm waiting for the challenge because it certainly looked like a play he should challenge. And I'm watching. You can see him talking to the official, and you could tell that that's what he was asking. Like, hey, is this something I can review? Now, part of me says he should know that that's a play he can review. Part of me says, well, if you throw the flag and can't review it, like, is there a penalty there? And I'm not, sure about that rule. But then the official says, yes, you can challenge it. And Stefanski drops the flag, and the official takes like 2 steps out of the field like he's going to blow the play dead. The next play had already started, and he backs up and ignores the challenge flag. So he tried to challenge it. I think they would have won the challenge. But it's kind of interesting, the mechanics of that situation. And then the next time Stefanski challenges, he throws it at the guy's foot. And I think that was frustration from the first one not getting recognized.
Yeah, and again, I think he probably wanted clarification. You know, you can challenge a spot, but can you do it in the end? You know what I mean? Because you're challenging breaking the plane of the end zone, and normally that's an instant. When it's on the offensive side of the ball, they review that automatically. So I get what he was saying. All right. So now this is an interesting stat as well. Browns have now run 182 more offensive plays than their opponents. Next closest team is Dallas at 92. 52.7% of the drives against Cleveland have failed to gain a first down or score. That's the highest rate in the league. The league average, 34.1%. Again, it's just showing you how dominating that defense has been.
Right. It's mostly the defense, right? All the 3 and outs. They can't convert third downs against them. They lead the league by a ton. Third downs, they lead the league by a ton, and first downs given up. The other part of that is the Browns run the ball and they take time. They haven't had a ton of explosive plays, so that adds to their total. But it starts with the defense and those 3 and outs. Why Teller made a joke today that they'll go on a 17-play drive, and the Browns have had 17-play drives in back-to-back games. And they'll get done, the defense forces a 3 and out, and he's like, oh, my gosh, we were just on the field. Like, he's still catching his breath. But he said, that's something you can live with.
You mentioned Teller. So he was asked today as well, why this team's so resilient?
Yeah, no, I think that we are a resilient team, but I also think we're resilient because our defense is really good. I've been on teams that, our defense fights, but then it's just, you go with 3 and out a handful of times and, they start getting tired. Even the best defense can get tired, and, we got to be able to, turn those 3 and outs to, first down, just a couple first downs just to get them a little bit of breath. And, even though we weren't playing perfect, yesterday our defense came out and was playing, lights out to hold the teams to what they've been doing to be winning on third down. I mean, sometimes it feels like we'll be like 19 play drives to go score, and we'll go out and our defense will 3 and out. And I'm like, what? Oh gosh, I'm already up. So, it's a good problem to have. But we play complementary football, and that's because we have a really good defense, really good special teams, and an offense that does what it needs to do. As long as we hold on to that ball, and we execute and we perform to the best of our ability, I think that the 3 core that we have is special.
And the interesting thing is, Scott, this team's starting to understand what it's. He just verbalized what the identity is, and as long as you're able to accept that and play into it, you're usually pretty successful as a team.
Yeah, that's a good point. I played a little. I should have had a spoiler alert. We talked about that quote ahead of time. But yeah, you're right, and I think it takes something special from the offense to know that that's how you're going to play, right? So a guy like Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, you probably can't be upset if you're not throwing it all over the field, right? If you're running 6-yard curls and slants as opposed to running go routes and hoping for big plays, because maybe that's not how you play this game, right? This particular matchup calls for a bunch of underneath stuff because you have a rookie quarterback, you have backup tackles, whatever it is. But I do think there's been a buy-in and there's been an understanding. And I think Wyatt Teller expressed that well. And just the luxury of having the best defense in the league, right? That goes so far, and we see it. And I think that instills confidence. Stefanski can be more conservative as a play caller if he wants. He can play field position games. He can punt in the other team's territory, right? Stuff that if you don't trust your defense, you figure, man, I gotta rack up these points when I can. It's a different mindset for everybody.
All right, this is interesting as well. Myles Garrett now has 13 sacks so far this season. Single season sack record is 22.5 by Michael Strahan in 2001. So he needs a little under a sack and a half per game to finish with above that 22.5 sack record. It's kind of interesting. You know what? With the skill set that they have on that defensive line, I don't know that I'd bet against it.
Yeah, and I think T.J. Watt might have tied Strahan a couple of years ago, 22.5. But yeah, you do those numbers. That's not crazy, right? If you get, of course, if you get 0, then all of a sudden you're fighting an uphill climb. But if he gets a game with 3, right, which can happen, we've seen it happen plenty of times with Miles, get the right matchup, you get a big lead early, and then you can unleash it. All of a sudden those numbers start to tilt, and you don't need 1 point. You don't need 1.5. Maybe you only need 1 a game, and that's certainly doable for Miles. So it's probably a little too early to start counting on that, and I don't think Miles is focused on that right now. But it's certainly something to keep in the back of your mind, and it's really interesting. I think he had 13 one other time through 10 games, and then it was a year he got banged up a little bit. He might have had COVID that year too, where he wasn't able to finish as strong. And you never know what's going to happen, but he just seems to me to be getting better and better as this season goes along. He's playing incredibly hard. He's showing up week in and week out. So I would not put anything past Myles Garrett this season.
All right, before we go to break, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
This is Charles Boykin in Dayton, Ohio. Let's get David Njoku to work out with the defense. David Njoku needs to work out with Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz will get his hands together. He would have him catching 500 balls a day off the jug machine. He'll have his hands so raw he'll have to catch the ball. Go Browns!
Well, this is from David Njoku yesterday. Great team win. He's saying his play was unacceptable. Got to do better. Thankful for my brothers for fighting till the end. 1-0. He had 15 targets, 7 catches, had some drops. But we did find out, he said it, and Kevin Stefanski confirmed it. He went home and started working at his jugs gun at home. So he's a step ahead of our caller there. Again, he's got to catch those, but he knows that. He knows he's an important role of this.
He does, and it kind of cracks me up that, the callers think that, like, Jim Schwartz has all these answers, right? Like Kevin Stefanski's not having his guys on the jugs machine, right? Like, it's only the defensive guys. But, yeah, I thought, I think that in the Njoku game and then his response to it tells a lot about it, because that was an issue early in his career, right? The consistency catching the ball. There were too many drops. Practice, in games, you just saw it too much. I think through the last, I don't know if it's 2-3 years, he's really been better catching the ball. Now, he doesn't catch everything, but nobody does. And his drop rate has gone down substantially. But then it pops up yesterday. So, that's inconsistent. That's concerning. The Browns are able to overcome it. He still had 7 catches. He had a big catch late, a couple big catches late. But I think the important thing is the growth in his maturity. 5 years ago, he probably doesn't go home and get on the jugs gun. But he did, and he proved it to his coach, and he thinks that he cares enough to do it, to talk about it, and to tell his coach he's doing it. So, it's a little weird there that he FaceTimed his coach to show him that, but I think it's a good sign overall, and I think you have seen a gradual progression from Njoku where he is one of the best tight ends in the league now.
And he knows with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback, he's going to be a big part of the offense. He just is, and he's got to catch the ball. So, again, can't fault him for going and working, trying to make sure he corrects that. Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, as well as BrownZone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I just find it, interesting that everybody doubted DTR and this Browns team. I knew from the moment that they beat the 49ers that this team was different. Nobody wanted to believe me. And when the news came out that Watson was gone for the year, I still had faith that this team could beat the Steelers, and they did. And because I knew that this team was different. And I think if they can make a deep run in the playoffs, probably a better Browns team that we've seen since we came back. And I think, we can make a deep run in the playoffs. So, yeah, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Scott, I'm kind of with you. I'm concerned if you have to face a really high-scoring offense. But as you said, a lot can change between where we are and where this offense will be, 7-8 weeks from now.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows? Who knows what the matchup would be in the playoffs? Are you hosting a game? Are you on the road in Jacksonville? Could you go beat Jacksonville? Sure, why not? And with this defense, I think that gives you a chance, right? It gives you hope, at least, that can they go out there and pitch a shutout, it seems a long shot against a guy like Mahomes, but could they do it against a struggling Buffalo offense or whoever? Like, pick your team. That's not out of the question. Maybe Stefanski would call the game different then, right? We need to score more. He's thinking, and you open it up and see how DTR handles it. It's too early to tell, but I do think this defense, and it's not just the defense, it's the intangibles. It's the resilience the team's shown. It's the closeness that this team continues to talk about and brag about. I think all those things contribute to, like the caller said, a different team than we've seen in the past.
Well, it's kind of interesting because post-game yesterday, Myles Garrett was asked, so what is the difference between this team and last year's team and some previous teams?
Nobody's taking the easy way out, whether that's in the facility, at practice. Everybody's in there to win it. And we know what we have in the building. It felt like before, not everyone was going all in. And everyone is really invested in being a winner this year. And can't always say it's been like that. It's been tough, and I think leadership has been a big focal point. Not only the main guys, the playmakers, and the quote unquote stars, but the guys who sometimes play 6, 7, 8 big snaps on special teams, or some who fills in because the first guy is out. Those guys are also leading. Everyone is taking it upon themselves. Take ownership of this team and what their role and their job is with this team, and it really has taken it to another level. Setting the tone and not compromising.
And again, Scott, he's talking about dreaded chemistry and culture, and it has improved.
There's no doubt, and it started with the offseason acquisitions, guys like Dalvin Tomlinson, and even Shelby Harris and Maurice Hurst and Rodney McLeod, who's now, out with that biceps. Like, those guys have an impact on the locker room culture, the chemistry. The trip to the Greenbrier helped. Stefanski and Andrew Berry in the organization recognized that was a problem last year, and they addressed it in several different ways. And I think it's paid dividends, and we've seen it. We've seen it from the quotes. We've seen it from the way the guys have played, the way they react to each other. And I think that is important, right? It's so hard to quantify something like that. But I feel confident saying that it has had a significant impact.
All right, so it's the Broncos in Denver on Sunday. Now, Broncos have won 4 in a row. Their offense I don't want to say it's the same. It isn't a high-powered offense with Russell Wilson at quarterback. What does it look like for the Browns to go into Denver and come away with a win?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a close game, right? That's how Denver's played. That's how the Browns are playing. You look at how they beat Buffalo. You look at how Denver beat Buffalo on Monday night a week ago, how it beat Minnesota last night. It's close games. Like a couple guys at receiver that you have to be careful of. Sutton's made a couple big catches the last 2 weeks. Really opportunistic defense. It reminds you of the Steelers defense. They're getting a bunch of takeaways. I think it's 4 in the last 4 games. So it's going to be priority number one again to protect the ball if you're Thompson Robinson and the rest of that offense. And then you have to be worried about Russell Wilson making a big play or two, right? He's starting to play better, more like the guy that we knew from Seattle. And what always impressed me the most about Wilson was he could make a deep throw, and he made a great deep throw, put it right on target. So in a game that you expect to be close, those explosive plays can be the difference, and the Browns are going to have to be on high alert for that.
Yeah, you mentioned the turnovers. They have 19 takeaways. That's tied with the Steelers for second best in the NFL. So absolutely, I'm guessing it'll probably be a similar type of thing where take care of the ball, don't put Dorian Thompson-Robinson into too many tough situations if you can avoid it. Now the challenge will be you're going to be on the road in altitude with a loud crowd.
Yeah, I think you have to be worried about your tackles, right? Hopefully, from a Browns perspective, they get DeJuan Jones back for the full game. Then you feel good about the protection on the right side. Maybe you can help Jaron Christian on the left tackle, who's been good in his 2 starts. And then, maybe you can take some shots, let DTR hold the ball a little longer. But you're right, the tackles, it's tough because they're the last ones there that, that silent snap count, if they're a half second late off the ball, that can lead to trouble. So the Browns are going to be really good. And they were really good in Seattle dealing with the noise there. So they're going to have to duplicate that, but with DTR at quarterback.
Scott Petrak, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, Dave.
Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out. Elyria Chronicle Telegram, Browns beat reporter. Also on the internet, brownzone.com. Always really good Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Coming up, it'll be Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance. Is that Marion Bright? The first ever $1 million holiday game! No. You can get them now? I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Howard from Marin County. Great show. All I can say is I'm incredibly impressed by the coaching done in terms of the line, the defense, and Kevin Stefanski. Hope we can keep it going for the rest of the season. I have one question. Do you think that Joel Bitonio could get into the Hall of Fame now? He's been in the league for 10 years. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Jeff, I think he's certainly on that trajectory. The lineman, it's so tough with linemen. A lot of it goes to Pro Bowl appearances and those kind of things. And Joel certainly has those. Might need a couple more. And he's still playing at a really high level.
It's certainly a possibility, and certainly with the Browns' recent success over the last few years, we're talking 6, 7, 8 win seasons as opposed to 0 wins, 1 win, 2 win seasons. Certainly is in his favor, but it's always difficult, and certainly on the interior offensive line. Obviously, everybody values the offensive tackle play, but for Joel, is it possible? It certainly is, and for whatever the story will be when Joel finally hangs him up, he's going to go down as one of the top 3 offensive linemen that's ever played for this franchise. And knowing Joel and having had conversations with him, he'd be more than content with that. Would he love the honor to join his buddy Joe in Canton possibly one day? Sure. But maybe a little early to tell maybe on that. Who knows? A little more success, maybe a little more time. We can have maybe more of a slam dunk answer.
All right, so take a look at this. This is kind of interesting. Browns had 7 dropped passes against the Steelers. DTR certainly wasn't perfect. He could have been helped out a little bit more by his wide receivers. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. Some of the passes, it might have been a matter of touch, a little behind him, but when you're playing a rookie quarterback, the veteran pass catchers need to help him out.
Well, David Njoku, obviously not one of his better days. And, look, every now and then these things happen. Elijah Moore had a key drop to at one point in the game. And I've seen some, DTR's got to learn. Guys, it was a rookie in his second start. I mean, if the ball's on you, this isn't, high school. They threw it too hard. This is the NFL. It's not the way it works here, man. If the ball's on your hands, the ball's on your body, you're responsible for coming down with it. Look, the grand scheme of things, it wasn't their best day with that. But when it all came, time basically to push or shove, he went 4 for 4 on the final drive. Obviously, a 1 incompletion counting on the, killing the clock. But it all, came together for the team on that drive, and that's what truly matters. With some of those drops have made this game, maybe where it wasn't a last-second win for the team, certainly possible. But look, at the end of the day, this team is just trying to string together wins. They don't care how they achieve them. They don't care what they look like. They're not looking for style points. They're not looking to win a beauty contest. A W at the end of the day is all this team is trying to achieve. And through 10 games, 7-3, with all the adversity, with 3 quarterbacks that have played over 150 snaps for this team, you're certainly take it.
The other thing is, I thought the game plan was really good by Kevin Stefanski. Take a look at these metrics from DTR in Week 11. Tied for the fastest average time from snap to throw, 2.34 seconds. Lowest average intended air yards, 3.3. 7th highest expected completion percentage, over 67%. All those tell you Kevin Stefanski was trying to make it easy for his rookie quarterback against a really good set of edge rushers, which equates to, hey, that's a great game plan.
Dave, how many times have we done these shows, and how many times have I mentioned that the Browns always have issues with teams that play the odd front? Baltimore, Pittsburgh. So the whole point was getting the ball out of the hands. And even still, now you got to keep in mind with Jaron Christian, and obviously it was James Hudson as well, who were out there. So you're down to your 4th and 5th tackles. We all know what happened the first meeting with Pittsburgh. The Browns lost the game single-handedly to Alex Highsmith and T.J. Watt. You were not going to let that happen a second time. And I've seen, maybe a little criticisms of DTR that I thought were a little bit too harsh, which, look, division games, or you never should really be judging anybody on division games. They're the toughest games. They're the teams that know you the best. And most of the times, obviously, you've already seen this team. So Pittsburgh obviously knew what, obviously Cleveland wants to do, likes to do. But for DTR, you want to talk about where he was in his first start to where he was in this start. And obviously, maybe the Steelers defense isn't as good as Baltimore's, but that's not really a knock on Pittsburgh. They're still solid defense. Let's see what happens maybe when he gets a little bit lighter in the schedule here. And also now where this guy gets a little bit more confidence under his belt. And now that maybe there's a little breathing room for the Browns and maybe it's not a division game. I think DTR is going to be okay. I love the fact that they, took, advantage of his athleticism. That's just smart. Put a kid in a position where he feels good about himself, like he is contributing. And I think that was a good thing. Look, I like to open it up a little bit, get a little, vertical game going. Sure. But at the end of the day, was getting that win yesterday. They did that. And let's see what comes in the coming weeks.
Yeah. And again, I know you've addressed this on your show. Late in the game, if you make the throws that he made, and we alluded to it, 4 or 5, one of them was a spike. That's a sign of a guy that belongs. The game is on the line. You need to be at your best, and he was.
How many teams have had 3 different quarterbacks in one season leading a game-winning drive? I mean, you got to keep it. P.J. Walker obviously did it in Indianapolis. We know Deshaun just did it last week against the Baltimore Ravens. DTR did it this week at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You just look, obviously, and there's been a lot of criticism for Coach Stefanski over the years. His system, it doesn't fit this, it doesn't fit that. Well, guess what? This season, Coach Stefanski's system has already fit 3 different quarterbacks, and everybody seems to be finding a little bit of success with it. I think it was just of having the whole product. There were times where the O-line was good. There was time where they ran the ball well. There was times, the receivers were good. Oh, the defense is good this week. It's a whole quality product right now. So it's really easy to judge everything, when you're balanced. And look, it's not going to stay that way. And obviously, changes come year after year. But the Browns seem to have a really, really good roster right now, special teams included, which makes everybody's job easier because even you feel like they haven't felt in years past, hey, we might make a mistake, but it's going to be okay. We can overcome that. In years past, especially last year, the Browns got down against anybody. Guess what? The other team ran the ball and just ran it down their throats. There was no chance to ever come back because you never got the ball back on offense. Things are clicking really, really well for this franchise right now. And you'll see in DTR down in tears, knowing that he's one of 53 on this roster. And when his team really needed him, he was able to go out there and contribute like one of the big names on this team. It's really, really hard not to fall in love with this team on a regular basis.
Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance. Is that Miriam Bright? The first ever $1 million holiday game! Hello? You can get them now?
I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
What a great game for the Browns. I just want to say I love the show, but also isn't it great to have Dustin Hopkins on the team because you don't get nervous when he goes out to kick a game winner. So if you think about it, we've got 3 wins on the foot of Dustin Hopkins this year. The game against the Colts, he kept us in it. It's the game winner at Baltimore, the game winner against Pittsburgh. So here we are, 7-3. Go Browns. Woo, woo, woo.
So, Jeff, the question that the caller kind of alluded to, do you think Cade York is able to convert those? It's an interesting question.
The Cade York we saw over the summer was not converting these field goals, no. And look, that was the position they were in. Look, they had a young kicker who was going through within his mind. And look, it's really, really difficult. Look, you can coach players in habits, techniques, but there's very little you can truly do for a kicker. And if he's got a case of the yips and the ball's not going where he thinks it's going to go, it's really, really difficult to coach a guy out of that. And I think the Browns realized they had a lot on the line this year. And the last thing I wanted to do was say week 3, week 4, you lost a game or 2 because of your kicker, the young kicker, and then try to scramble then and find a veteran kicker. Certainly, the Browns have made a bunch of, small minor moves that look like it at the time. Maurice Hurst, one of them, certainly Dustin Hopkins. But those are tiny moves, small moves at the time that are now paying big, big dividends for this team.
So, again, I know this is something you've addressed on the Locked On Browns podcast. How do you think Myles Garrett is playing? I mean, we 13 sacks already. 22.5 is the NFL record. In your mind, how good has he been?
I said a couple of weeks ago I thought he was on a Defensive Player of the Year pace, and I said, and I was joking, I think, because we never see him get Defensive Player of the Week. Maybe the bar's a little bit higher for Myles Garrett. But just everything he's doing. And look, obviously it was a first offensive play from scrimmage yesterday and basically set the tone for that entire game, as far as the Browns defense was concerned. The way this year is going, and it is a little bit wonky, and, it's definitely a strange year, a lot of potential, a lot of, big name offensive performers. I've missed a ton of time this year. I'm not saying he could, but does he deserve a vote or two? Does he deserve to be in, recognition for most valuable player? When the Browns are winning games with their second and third quarterbacks, and, a lot of it comes down to what the defense is doing. And it does seem kind of tough to say, Miles deserves this because everybody in that defense is playing so well. But, in any great unit, there is a tone setter. And obviously number 95 is just that for this defense. He has just been absolutely lights out. And we've seen a lot of great Myles Garrett over his career. But we are seeing the best of Myles Garrett that we've ever seen. And it's kind of funny because we all said if you finally got some defensive talent around him, you'd probably see even more impactful Myles Garrett. And that has absolutely been the case thus far this year.
So take a look at these numbers. They're really interesting. Browns defense forcing opponents into third and long. That's 7 or more yards on third down. 34% of their set of downs. That's on pace for the highest rate dating back to around 2000. You see some other notables. Ravens 29.9, Bucks at 29.1, Bears 31.6, Steelers 30.4. So they're winning on first and second downs, making third and long what the opponents are in. And Jim Schwartz has said all along, that's what he wants to do because then you can really ratchet things up.
Well, the issue is they get these teams to third and long, and these teams cannot pass protect long enough to throw a pass that is going to be completed for a first down. That's why you see teams trying so many screens or just dumping the ball to a back in a flat because they don't have time for the quarterback to read through his progressions and hopefully drill an 18 to 29-yard squaring. They're just no team is able to pass protect long enough against this defensive line to produce those kinds of results. And that's what the key to it all is. And you see he keeps switching things up. And, we see Jim joked and, I got much to do here. And we knew eventually he was going to start playing chess, just even if he was winning playing checkers, he was going to start to play chess just because that's what Jim Schwartz does. And it's rotating guys in and it's blitzing guys. He's just absolutely having fun right now. And I think the thing for Jim Schwartz is there's not a button or a call on that play sheet that I think he just doesn't say, you know what, we're going to go with it. Because, even still, if they get a first down on me, oh, well, I'll get him in 3rd and 13 in 3 plays and we'll be right back in this same situation.
All right, so now it's the Broncos in Mile High, or whatever version they're calling Mile High right now, on the road in Denver, some altitude. Broncos are playing well. They've played themselves into the playoff picture with 4 straight wins. What do you see as concerns? What do you see as keys for the Browns to go and get a win on the road?
Well, look, the Broncos are playing better. And look, Russ Wilson, obviously last year in the beginning part of this season, was not good. But let's be completely honest. This is not the Russell Wilson that was a dominant and one of the best quarterbacks for the Seattle Seahawks, winning Super Bowls, going to NFC Championship games. He's not that player anymore. Does that come back? I'm not sure. Can he throw, a decent game-winning touchdown like he did, obviously, to Cortland Sutton yesterday? Yes. The receivers are good. But, you equate some of this, and it's hard, and it's still hard for me to do. And I'm sure for a lot of people doing Browns coverage right now going, yeah, well, look at Minnesota's corners. They're not nearly as good as the Browns. Look at their pass rush and D-line. It's not nearly as good as the Browns. Minnesota Vikings last night ran for almost 5 yards per carry against the Denver Broncos. Guess what? I think the Browns running game's probably a little bit better than that. And these are things that you can go through. Look, Denver's always a difficult place to play. Obviously it's the altitude, it's the noise, it's everything. But you go in there, look, just keep doing what you do. Like, if you're the Browns, nothing changes. Whatever you do on practice on Wednesday, do it this Wednesday on practice, Thursday, Friday, etc. If you want the plane to leave the airport at precisely 3:05, you make sure the plane leaves the airport precisely at 3:05. There is nothing to be changed right now for this franchise, because even though within the roster and obviously the positional groups, there has been a lot of turnover, a lot of guys in, a lot of guys out. But whatever they seem to be doing right now within that building and as they take it on the road just seems to be working. Look, you go in there and nothing's changed. Try to cause more turnovers than you give up. Try to be really, really smart on special teams, which their punting game, their kick, obviously their kicker have been fantastic. They didn't run the ball with as much success this week as I was surprised they kind of went away from Jerome Ford. But look, Jerome Ford, there's no reason he can't run well. Alexander Madison's a nice running back, but Jerome Ford is running really well to this point himself. Just take it on there and take it on the road. And to keep in mind, yes, Denver's playing better, but this was the part of the schedule we were all looking forward to as the Browns were maneuvering and manipulating through this really, really tough stretch. this was the week where we thought things were going to start to lighten up. And look, Denver's playing better. But I mean, they're still a team inside of 500 or 500. I mean, I don't think I'm sweating it. I just, the way this team plays. And so, you just let Myles Garrett go. And even still, if you get away from Myles Garrett, then you got to get away from Ogbo. You got to get away from Zarius Smith. You got to worry about Maurice Hurst, Dalvin Tomlinson, and there's JOK and Taki. I mean, the list just goes on right now. And again, look, this is a really, really fun product to cover for me. And I can only imagine what this fan base is going through. Because, I mean, back in the day, you asked a kid who their favorite Cleveland Brown was. If the team that you rooted for the Browns, it was probably Ozzie Newsome, 99 out of 100. Of this 53-man roster, there's probably about 45 guys who would get mentioned now.
Jeff Lloyd, Locked On Browns podcast, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jeff.
All the best, Dave. We'll talk soon. Go Browns.
Sounds good. Jeff Lloyd, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff. Locked On Browns podcast. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.